Okay, I'm Teresa Bonuke, bed 050211. Today we are going to talk about the history of West Africa. History of West Africa, yeah. History of West Africa. First of all, West Africa was discovered come the year 1471 when the Portuguese captains first reached the coast of modern Ghana between the mouths of the Ankobora and Volt rivers. Western Africa region of West Africa continent comprises of so many countries, and the countries include Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, and Mali. West African populations were considerably mobile and interacted with one another throughout the population of history of West Africa. So the history of West Africa is divided into three colonial eras or periods. The first period was the colonial period. The second period was the pre-colonial era, and the third one was the post-colonial era. So the pre-colonial era, in this period of West African history, most of the colonial states were established and expanded through conquest and unification in response to invasion, but flourished mainly through controlling trade routes across Sahara. The pre-colonial era, which was the last period in West Africa, was dominated by three empires, and the empires were Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Those were the empires during the pre-colonial period. And also, in this period, there was also the discovery of how the trans-Saharan trade helped the three empires to rise in power. The colonial era, which was the first period or the first era during the West African history. During this people, the West African history basic impetus for colonization was to control existing West African markets, its mineral wealth, as well as to control its future economic discovery. The European powers during the West African history colonized much of Africa and Southern Asia. During the decades of imperialism, the industrialization powers of Europe viewed the African and Asian continents as reservoirs of raw materials, labor, and territory for future settlements. Those are the more explanation of the periods of history and the West African history. This is when the Europeans retreated from Africa in the 1960s. They left behind a continent that was fundamentally different from one they had found on their arrival. And that marks the end of our lesson today. Thank you.